Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name's Ailey. Today we're going to be talking about waxing versus shaving. If you've watched my channel in the past, you will know that I am a qualified beauty therapist, which means I do waxing professionally and stuff like that. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the pros and cons of each, and then maybe be able to put your mind at ease if you're kind of like worried about going for a wax, or what you should do if you're going to be going for your first wax and things like that. Let's go over the pros and cons of each. I have a list. Yes, I am not Superwoman. I can't remember everything, so I wrote down a list of pros and cons and my personal pros and cons, and I thought we would just go over them. So for anybody that doesn't know, the difference between waxing and shaving is pretty simple. Shaving, what you're doing is, and I'll see if I can get some like diagrams and things like that to kind of like pop up on the screen, but shaving, basically what you're doing is, so if you imagine that my hand is your skin and my finger is the hair growing out of the skin, all you're doing is taking the hair back down to sort of skin level, and then it will basically start to grow again from the very minute after you've cut it, and it'll start to poke back through again. The difference with waxing is it's actually plucked from the skin. So basically it's plucking all the hairs out on a really large scale, but you probably already knew that because it kind of is common sense. But just in case you didn't know, waxing is pulling the hair out of the follicle, shaving is just cutting it. But the pros of shaving are, obviously you can do it at home, anybody can do it, you don't have to train to do it, it's not like it requires an awful lot of skill. The worst thing that can really happen is maybe you accidentally cut yourself, but you can do it at home for the most part. It's pretty quick, especially if you've been doing it for as long as I have. It gets faster and faster every time. You can pretty much do it 5 minutes in the shower, and it's relatively inexpensive. Now, I've written that, but that really depends on what kind of razors you get, what you need to get, you know, what your experience is. But if you get really, really cheap disposable razors, it is relatively inexpensive. So the cons of shaving: razor burn. And if you shave at the moment, you will know razor burn is a nightmare. Obviously cuts and things like that. So it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. Always. Sometimes, you know, like if you use a good sort of shave cream or whatever, it can be okay, but sometimes it's a total nightmare, especially if you've got a blunt razor and you just have to do it. Total nightmare. Razors are expensive. Now this goes back to my pro of it being relatively inexpensive. The razors that I use if I shave are men's razors. Now the reason that I still shave sometimes is I don't always get a chance to wax because I wax other people. I can't exactly just be like, oh actually no, I can't do you today because I need to do myself. So my clients obviously come first, and at the end of the day I don't always want to then wax myself. I'm like, at the end of the day I just kind of want to get home, or I'm busy, or I've got other stuff to do, stuff like that. So the razors that I use are men's razors. And the main reason behind that is they are better. Don't believe any advert that you see. Men's razors are better. I don't know why, they just are. I've tried every single woman's razor you can think of. The Venus, the one with the kind of soap built round it. Yeah, pretty much all of them. Men's razors are the best. So there's a little tip for you. They last longer, they work better, they're just better overall. So, but men's razors like Gillette and things like that are really expensive. I mean, it's about £18 for a pack of 10 or something like that. It's stupid. Ingrown hairs. So you're more likely to get ingrown hairs with shaving, and you basically need to do it almost every single day. Because like I said, you're chopping it off right on the surface and it's going to start growing through again. So you pretty much have to do it constantly. If you want to stay hair free, you can let it grow out a little bit and then do it obviously, but you're not going to be completely hair free for any amount of time, which is a total nightmare. Because the hair is cut when it comes back through, instead of it being a nice, like if you look at your hair, instead of it being like a nice sort of tapered end, it's going to come through flat, which gives you that stubbly feeling. That's why when you shave you get stubble. Stubble is basically you've cut the hair so it's flat at the top and it makes it jaggy. It feels jaggy, and it can leave a stubbly appearance because if you have fair skin, darker skin tones, obviously you probably won't see it as much because it will blend in. But if you have dark hair on a fair skin tone, like myself, when you shave, you can sort of see the little bit of hair that's still underneath the skin, so you get that sort of stubbly appearance. It doesn't always happen, but a lot of the time it does, and you can see that little bit of hair there, so it gives you that. That's why when men shave, they still have their sort of 5 o'clock shadow, because you can still see the hair underneath the surface of their skin. Okay, so that is all I have for shaving for pros and cons. Let's go on to waxing. Waxing's pros. It can last up to 4 to 6 weeks. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be completely hair-free for 4 to 6 weeks, but around about the 3 to 4 week mark, you're going to have regrowth. But the first couple of weeks, you're going to have nothing. Now, that is after... There's a lot of misconception that you get waxed, that's it, you're done, it's fine. You have different stages of hair growth. You have 3 stages of, that's 4. You have 3 stages of hair growth, and that is anagen, catagen, and telogen. So you've got your active stage, your resting stage, and your shedding stage, basically. All your hair is growing at different stages, so some of it might be too short to pull out, some of it may not have come through the surface yet, some of it may be long enough. So when you wax, you could get growth kind of within the next week. It's just a case of letting it all catch up on itself, and then when you wax, it should all sort of come out at once, kind of thing. So it does end up being every 4 to 6 weeks that you need to get a wax, but you obviously have to let it grow. It's quick and it's relatively painless. Now, obviously, if you're getting a full Hollywood wax, it may not be painless, but for the most part, it is pretty much painless. It really doesn't hurt as much as you build it up in your head. I get lots of clients coming in, they're like, it's my first wax, I'm terrified, I'm really scared. And then they realise that it's actually not horrifying. A lot of these people have tattoos as well, and I'm like, your tattoo is a hell of a lot more painful than a wax is going to be. Because apart from anything else, as soon as the strip's pulled off, the pain goes away. If it's done by a professional, obviously it's going to be a lot quicker and a lot less painful because they are trained, they're not going to break hairs. It is always better to get it done by a trained professional, and I'm not just being biased. Keeps your skin feeling really soft, and it doesn't give you any sort of like razory bumps like you can get with shaving. What I mean by that is, obviously, you're not going to get stubble the next day. You're not going to get that sort of razor burn feeling there. And you're not going to get like the little stubbly things like where you can see the hair underneath the skin because the hair is gone. But you do have to exfoliate sort of before your treatment, after your treatment, maintain it, you know, to make sure that you don't get those ingrown hairs, because there is a chance with both. Your hair grows back softer. Now, this is because you're not cutting the hair. You're basically pulling it out and letting a new one grow. So when that new one grows, the top of the hair is not flat like when you cut it. It is nice and tapered, so it grows back nice and soft. Sort of like the hair that you've got on your arms and stuff like that. It's like nice and sort of soft. That is, I think, where the misconception comes from, that if you shave or wax that your hair grows back thicker. It doesn't. When you shave, your hair feels like it grows back thicker because it's blunt. And obviously if you're waxing, you'll feel like your hair is growing back in thicker because you're not used to having it there. It can reduce regrowth over time. It basically damages the follicle of the hair, so sometimes your hair just doesn't grow back. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to have bald patches, just some of the hairs may not grow back and it'll just leave an overall thinner appearance. Now, I know people, including myself, I don't have any hair on most of the backs of my legs because I wax, and I know other people that have like areas of their legs and things like that where the hair just doesn't grow back because they've waxed. And it doesn't like take years and years and years of waxing. Sometimes after your first wax you may not get hair grown back. So that takes me on to the cons. There's probably more pros, but that's all I could think of kind of at this minute. So on to the cons. It's not easy to do yourself at home. Now, I know that there's 1,000,001 kits and stuff and strip waxes, like the strips that you rub between your hands to warm them up, those Veet things. I know there's 1,000,001 of these things, especially because hot wax has become a thing, and it's like the beads and you get the little wax warmer which doesn't have a proper temperature control on it, and it's like, melt this, put this on and pull it off and it's pain-free, and they're always models with no hair when they're waxing. I would recommend against them. If you're going to get anything, try and get a professional kit, because these things, it must be so easy to burn yourself with them because you don't have a proper unit that is temperature controlled and stuff like that, so I would recommend against them. But there are stuff that you can get, I just think that it's really low quality, so I would always say go to a professional to get waxed. So that's my other con, is you would have to go to a professional to get waxed. Now it can be pricey, but in comparison to razors, I would actually say it's less expensive. Obviously, if you plan on doing bikini or Brazilian and stuff like that, it can be embarrassing to go to somebody else, and the con of doing that at home, I'll just let you imagine for yourself, because I could not imagine doing that to myself. It can be painful. For some people feel pain more than others. If you are on your period, do not go and get waxed because it will be really sore. So that is another con. Other specific areas can be quite painful, like your face or your underarms and things like that. If you don't have it done correctly, or you try and do it yourself at home and botch it, you can actually properly burn the skin. There was actually a post on, I think it was Facebook or Twitter, where a girl had actually had her entire face burnt, like 3rd or 2nd degree burns. So there can be complete disasters with wax, but obviously, you know, it's if you go to a trained professional who is trained properly and has their certificate and all that, then you obviously reduce all that, but there are things that can go wrong. So that is my list of pros and cons for both. Now, if you wanted to go the whole hog and go laser treatment is obviously better again, but it's very, very expensive. So I would say the reason that you should stop shaving and start waxing is the fact that there's a hell of a lot more cons to shaving than there is to waxing, and there's a lot more benefits to getting a wax. Now, if you're going on holiday, I would say go and try a wax. Or if you're, you know, if you've never been for a wax before, why not book in for one and have a go? There's always places who would take you in for a patch test. Basically, they could give you 1 strip and let you see how you feel about it, because at the end of the day, it's only going to take them 5 minutes. You get to experience it, and then there is some people that are allergic to some ingredients in wax, so it would make sure that you're not going to take any reaction to it. So the last thing that I will leave you with is tips if you're going in for your first ever wax, or even if you've been in for a wax before and you know you haven't been for a while or whatever. So I would recommend that you make sure and exfoliate in the days leading up, because if you do have any ingrown hairs, that'll help loosen them up, it'll help the wax sort of lift them, and it will help lift the hairs off the skin, because the hairs can tend to lie flat, especially with wearing like skinny jeans and stuff like that, say it's your legs. You know, because your clothes are compressing on your hairs, it sort of makes them lie flat to the skin. With you exfoliating, it'll sort of gradually make them pop up, so it'll be easier for the wax to grab them. Depending on where you go, when you book in with them, they will kind of give you a list of things to do and don't before your appointment. Don't wear tight clothing. I see so many people get their legs waxed, and I've done it myself, and try and squeeze into skinny jeans afterwards. It's not good for it, it's gonna hurt, it's gonna chafe, it's not gonna be nice. So wear like really nice loose fit clothing. If you're going in for a bikini wax or anything around about that region, you can take painkillers before you go. I wouldn't be too worried about it because it isn't really too bad. If you're going in for your first wax, don't dive in with like everything. If you're going in for your first wax, like first bikini style wax, I would say get a bikini wax. Work your way in, do it gradually. Don't scare the shit out of yourself before you've even sort of dipped your toe in. So just sort of like look after it as well. Maybe get in some aloe vera gel or some, you know, soothing sort of creams and things like that, because you can apply that after your wax and it'll help. I would recommend as well that you go to a place that only uses hot wax on sensitive areas. I use the brand Waxperts, and with Waxperts you only use strip wax on the legs and the arms, the chest and the back, and if the chest and the back are particularly sensitive, you use hot wax on that too. So anything like your face, your underarms, your bikini area, that's all done with hot wax. And to be honest, I would say I would never go anywhere that did not use hot wax on my face, because it is one, a hell of a lot more comfortable, it's a hell of a lot lower in temperature, and it's just a lot more gentle because you use a sort of oil barrier, and it's just much more comfortable, and there's less chance of redness, less chance of burning anybody and stuff like that. So I would recommend for any sensitive areas, make sure you're going to a place that uses hot wax. I know Lycon's another good brand that I think that they use a really good wax as well. Speak to your local esthetician or beauty therapist or whatever, you know, if you have any questions before your appointment, because we don't like that people worry. You know, if you need to ask us something, ask us it, because at the end of the day we would rather tell you everything and get you prepared than have you completely have a breakdown in the salon. So I think that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions about anything in this video, leave it in the comment section below and I'll do my best to try and help. If you have any horror waxing experiences, leave them in the comments below as well, because I would love to hear them. Obviously to kind of like console you and not laugh at your pain, but if you enjoyed this video, I would love if you would give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I do post videos every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye.